Bernie has already hired up a lot of staffers for a potential campaign, particularly in the digital area, digital media. And now, tomorrow, on Martin Luther King Day, Bernie is taking a trip to South Carolina. Obviously, he did not do great in South Carolina in the primaries in 2016. So, several potential 2020 Democratic nominees for president have planned full weekends for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Bernie Sanders will be speaking in South Carolina at an event commemorating the life of King on Monday and speaking with students from Benedict College and Allen University on Tuesday, according to a statement for The Hill. The 77-year-old senator, who came in second for the Democratic nomination in 2016, has yet to announce his decision on whether he would run again. Sanders is widely viewed as a potential frontrunner in the race, consistently polling in the top three among likely candidates. And as I've shown you, I think those polls are BS because, frankly, I don't know how many millennials are part of these polls. They tell you that they have half of the polls are landlines and half of the calls are to landline phones. Half of them are to cell phones, but they never break down what's the age breakdown of the people you're talking to. So that's important. So Senator Kirsten Gillibrand is in Iowa for the Women's March this Saturday in her first campaign trip since announcing her candidacy earlier this month. She will head to Iowa City on Sunday. Kamala Harris, who has also not made an official announcement on running, will reportedly be speaking in Oakland, California on Monday. It was also reported that she would announce her candidacy at that event, and Cory Booker is scheduled to be at an NAACP event in South Carolina Monday. So let me show you, just as a reminder, Bernie Sanders in 2016. Call it what it is. You got an old-fashioned, ass whooping. Oop! Demonetized. I cursed. Demonetized. So Bernie Sanders, got his clock cleaned in South Carolina by Hillary Clinton. He lost by 195, so almost 200,000 votes he lost by. I think a big part of that, frankly, from my coverage down in South Carolina before that primary, was African Americans' familiarity with the Clintons, but also, frankly, the strongest voting bloc of the Democratic Party is older female African American women. So older African American women, and they voted for Hillary Clinton. Obviously, I don't. This is just my opinion. In large part because she ran against Obama. They voted for Obama in that case because it was history as the first African American president, and kind of this would have been the first woman president. That is the impression I got on the ground there in South Carolina and in other places interviewing African Americans. But I think Bernie Sanders, if you look at more recent polls, let me show you this one from September. Bernie Sanders is at 64%. 64% among non-whites. That could be blacks, that could be browns, could be indigenous, but that category I read as mostly African Americans. So Bernie Sanders, I think, has done a lot since 2016 to make inroads with the black community. And there is not, as opposed to in 2016, Bernie Sanders is not going to be facing anyone that has the overbearing throttle on the Democratic Party that they had for basically 2 decades, like a Hillary Clinton. Joe Biden is the next best thing as far as the establishment Democratic Party, basically as far as having structural support among state leaders, among national leaders, and having the relationships dating back to the 1980s for Joe Biden. But frankly, I think once the genie's out of the bottle, if Joe Biden decides to run, Joe Biden was even worse for black people than Hillary Clinton, and that's saying a lot. Joe Biden drafted the crime bill that ushered in mass incarceration. Joe Biden voted for welfare reform that threw mostly single black women off the welfare rolls. Joe Biden voted to deregulate Wall Street time and time again, including the repeal of Glass-Steagall. Joe Biden and the repeal of Glass-Steagall was the main driver for crashing the global economy, which disproportionately screwed black people. So Joe Biden, I think once all this information comes to the forefront, I don't think Joe Biden's going to be winning or doing as well among the black vote that then Barack Obama did or Hillary Clinton did. Again, this is a white man saying it, so I don't want to speak for black people, but millennial black people, millennials who are black, voted for Bernie Sanders over Hillary Clinton. And I think you're going to see millennials that are black going towards Bernie Sanders again. So then it gets down to the middle-aged to older African-American vote. And I think, based on what Bernie Sanders has been doing the last few years, Bernie Sanders went down to Mississippi to rally with Nissan workers. He's been down to South Carolina several times. He's been in other southern states with predominantly black populations. I think Bernie Sanders has taken big steps to become more well-known with the black community and to also cater to their issues. So I think it's a good thing that he's going down there for Martin Luther King Day. And I think Bernie Sanders has to articulate a case that democratic socialism, or simply put, populism, progressivism, would disproportionately help African-American communities. I do believe that's what Bernie Sanders has to do without coming off, condescending or dripping with white privilege. Because Kamala Harris, for example, or Cory Booker or Kirsten Gillibrand, obviously two of those are African-American, but when you look beyond skin color, their policies are not helping African-Americans. And many of their policies, Cory Booker, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, if you look into her time as Attorney General of California, harmed black people. So I personally think when you look at the Democratic primary field, the key thing that Bernie Sanders is going to have to do to A, work around the rigging that will go on, which I do believe there will be rigging that goes on. I think he's going to have to do a better showing with African Americans. I also think he's going to have to pick off some of the establishment vote that voted for Hillary Clinton, that 55 and older vote. I think he will have a harder time to pick off that 55 and older vote if Joe Biden runs. If Joe Biden does not run, I think he can pick off 5 to 10% of that vote, because those people, they want to win. So they're going to vote for whoever they think can win. And if it's shown that Bernie Sanders is polling higher than these candidates, which I expect once he announces, once we're actually in the campaign, I expect Bernie Sanders to be polling higher than Cory Booker, than Beto O'Rourke, than Kamala Harris, or any of these people. That's what I expect, because Bernie Sanders is not up against the Hillary Clinton this time. He is nationally known as opposed to not being nationally known. So I expect this, and you're going to have forces like Nina Turner out advocating for him, Cornel West, Danny Glover, and other high-level African Americans out there basically campaigning for him.